Welcome to Gamage Facts, and today we're evaluating each Assassin's Creed final boss. Before we begin, we'll be releasing new content throughout the week, so subscribe and ring to be notified of our latest videos. For this list, we'll be looking at the boss fights in this long-running stealth action series to find out which fights offer a good mix of challenging gameplay and compelling narrative. We're leaving out the spin-offs to focus on the bosses that are most relevant to the series. Let's know in the comments. Number 12, Rodrigo Borgia, Assassin's Creed 2. Considering that the entire story of Ezio's 23-year-old after the assassination attempt on Rodrigo failed, Ezio confronts his opponent in front of the safe containing information about the ISU. There's pretty much no strategy required to take Rodrigo out, as players will simply have to fight their way out of this sequence, although he does have some offensive maneuvers at his disposal, as blocking Rodrigo's attacks is too easy to be a challenge, and knocking him back with Ezio's own moves is pretty much all we have to do as far as the story is concerned. This moment is important for Ezio to finally get his revenge, but it's not that big of a deal in terms of gameplay. I am Prophet. Number 11, Cesare Borgia, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Soon Micheletto and his army will arrive, but you'll be dead before then. Equal to Ezio in every way, Cesare Borgia doesn't quite do justice in his boss fight. For the most part, we're to chase him while he sends his henchmen after Ezio. This drags on long enough for the scene to switch between different environments until he's put in the pocket and has no choice but to fight you. However, there is no difference between fighting him and any other enemy, as he has the same weak movement patterns. The fight can even be won by keeping your distance and hitting him with ranged weapons that make him completely vulnerable to these attacks. The background of the fight is undoubtedly intense as the game reaches its climax, but the fight itself is hardly original. No man can kill me, then I leave you to fate. Number 10, Deimos, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The one you love is dead, my fate is clear, and I'll not let you get in my way. Although this fight is much tougher than other bosses in the series, it feels a little too one-dimensional. Deimos' strategy is to use power moves, which he unleashes in bursts to launch a barrage of attacks. However, for players who figure out Deimos' patterns, this isn't as daunting since he repeats the same style every time. It also helps that Cassandra is fast and agile, which makes it easy to dodge Deimos' attacks. The climax of the fight lives up to its narrative importance and feels like a fight to the death between siblings, in which Cassandra's inner conflict becomes clear. The fight against the boss is also quite limiting for those of us who want a steady pace to the gameplay, as the frequent dodging of Deimos can quickly become tedious. Number 9, Laureano Torres, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. At the end of this game, the protagonist Edward Kenway must stop the Templars from accessing the ISU observatory. After pursuing Torres into the observatory, Edward is interrupted by Torres' henchmen, who are the conflict for the player in this boss fight. Basically, it's the same as enemies in general. There's the catch of dodging the force fields that Torres projects with ISU technology. This can get confusing. This continues even after the minions are eliminated because the force fields interrupt climbing the walls of the environment to get to Torres. All in all, it's still a simple sequence where the task is to get into a position where Torres can be assassinated, although the game manages to convey a sense of finality about the boss fight as the end of Edward's story. With everything I've seen and learned over the past few years, I think you are your number 8, Liam O'Brien, Assassin's Creed Rogue, the home that was Chevalier. I don't miss him. A mix of battle and chase sequence. This battle has the added element of the collapsing environment after the ISU temple is triggered by an earthquake. Player character She Cormac must hunt down his former best friend Liam to end their rivalry once and for all. Most of the boss fight consists of getting close to the fleeing Liam, with the collapse of the temple providing several distractions that we must overcome with parkour. Liam is also a constant presence as he makes sure to shoot Shay with his gun when players get too close. 7, Crawford Starrick, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I would like to correct my mistake. The theme of playing with both Fry siblings is taken up in the fight against Starrick with relatively mixed results to allow players to use both Jacob and Evie. The fight alternates between the two. The strategy consists of dodging Starrick's attacks through the shroud and reaching him to initiate a combat sequence, which is then repeated after some of his health is depleted. The repetition is what makes executing this boss a mixed bag, as it becomes a waiting game as to when he'll be defeated, rather than us looking forward to defeating him. The melee against Starrick is more rewarding as he fights back here, and the boss would have been far more memorable if this aspect had been expanded upon. Along with number 6, Francois, in Assassin's Creed Unity. This is also a reunion aspect of being an assassin, and the final boss reflects this theme. Francois Tomei is so powerful that he has godlike abilities, and Arnaud is forced to hide in the shadows and rely on the element of surprise, while the general idea is to assassinate him like any other enemy. The challenge is that the villain frequently uses lightning-based attacks, which means we can't stay in one place for too long. Overall, it's quite satisfying to navigate the environment and launch a successful execution. Though the lack of variety in gameplay is apparent, the boss would have benefited from elements of a one-on-one confrontation, and the complete focus on stealth can feel slightly anticlimactic. Number 5 Prince Ahmed. Assassin's Creed reveals the climax of the fight between Ezio and Prince Ahmed feels like a great battle and leaves no doubt that Ezio's long journey is nearing its end, which plays out like the end of a blockbuster action film. The life of Ezio's lover Sofia is at stake, and the stakes are raised to a reasonable level, even if the chase lasts longer than it probably should have. The transition to fighting Ahmed one-on-one provides a steady flow of gameplay, but it maintains relevance to the plot and the personal enmity between the rivals. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Forgiveness is impossible. We have shared so much in England, which requires a combination of effective strategy and combat skills. Basim's boss fight is the most varied in the series, but simply defeating him in combat isn't enough, as Basim's extreme speed allows him to hide while landing attacks that quickly take Aveir's life. It's only through the changing environment of the mission provides the player the opportunity refresh themselves and prepare for the next phase of Basim's boss fight. While the extended story finally comes to its conclusion, the downside of the fight is that Basim's aggressiveness might frustrate first-time players, as he takes a lot of time. Players might get frustrated, as it takes a lot of trial and error to figure out his attack order. Number 3 Lucius Septimius. Assassin's Creed Origins. Caesar is the father of understanding. You and Caesar will die. You interfere in the affairs of the Order. The Order is greater than Rome. The epilogue to the origin story sees the players in the role of Aya. After spending the game as Bayek, while she has the same controls, Aya must face a real challenge, namely Septimius, whose chained weapons give him a long range to unleash powerful combos and blows. However, Septimius is also prepared for this and tends to deliver powerful blows if the player backs off too far without making a move. This makes the fight especially exciting, as we're motivated to be directly involved and creative with Aya's moves. The fact that this is the last part of Aya's long story arc adds to the tense atmosphere. The fight feels like a real hero going up against a Goliath-like villain. Number 2 Haytham Kenway. Assassin's Creed 3. The story makes this encounter the most important moment of the game, where father and son clash in a fight to the death. The gameplay isn't flashy at all, as the method to defeat Haytham is simply to direct him at the surrounding objects, but the dialogue between the two makes this boss fight feel very personal, as Haytham's taunts shake Connor's spirit. We have to pit this weakened Connor against Haytham's masterful fighting skills, making even the defensive strategy feel exciting. The final decision to kill Haytham is brought about by a quick time event to let share in the regret Connor feels for taking the life of his father. Number 1 Al-Mualim. Assassin's Creed. I'm still alive, that's why. What am I going to do to you? This confrontation pulls out all the stops for an experience that will be remembered. Al-Mualim commands several phantoms of him through the Apple of Eden against Altair, requiring players to use all the skills they have acquired in the game. The difficulty level is high in this boss fight to show how great the odds are against the protagonist. It's both a cinematic experience and a gameplay. Al-Mualim interrupts the fight to fill gaps in the story. This serves as a break from the barrage of attacks from the final boss, after which we can face Al-Mualim again to put an end to this threat once and for all. The battle is a worthy mix of combat and narration, bringing together all the elements of the game. Check out these other great clips from Gamage Facts and subscribe to the site to be informed about our latest videos.